A passerby's evening stroll through the quiet Easton Park neighborhood in New Tampa turned into a nightmare at precisely 10:16 p.m. There, illuminated by the dim street lights, lay the body of a young woman beside her SUV, motionless, silent, with no signs of life. Blood stained the pavement beneath her, the fatal gunshot wounds to her upper body, telling a story of brutal violence that had unfolded hours earlier. This wasn't just any murder. This was the killing of 22-year-old Alana Sims, a pregnant mother whose life was extinguished just days before what would have been her 23rd birthday. More chilling still was what the first responders discovered inside the vehicle: an 18-month-old boy, mercifully asleep, unaware that his mother lay dead just feet away, or that the person responsible for this heinous act was someone they both should have been able to trust. Before we dive deeper into this heartbreaking case, I need to ask, have you ever ignored red flags in a relationship? The story of Alana Sims might make you reconsider what warnings deserve your attention. If this video helps even one person recognize danger, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. January 30th, 2023. A Monday evening in Tampa, Florida. The Easton Park neighborhood, a place where families typically felt safe, became the setting for a calculated murder that would shock the community to its core. Earlier that evening, surveillance cameras captured a black Chevy Malibu entering the neighborhood at 7:22 p.m., followed by Alana's SUV at 7:36 p.m. The temperature was mild, typical for a winter evening in Florida, with no indication of the cold-blooded act about to unfold. What was supposed to be a celebration, a party marking Billy Adams' recent acquittal in a double homicide case, was actually an elaborate trap. No party guests would arrive because no party was ever planned. Instead, the quiet residential street became a crime scene, with police tape eventually cordoning off the area where Alana's life ended. For nearly 3 hours, her body remained undiscovered as night settled over the neighborhood, her child alone in the car. When authorities arrived after the 911 call, they found Alana lying on the ground outside her SUV, her body bearing fatal gunshot wounds to her upper body. 5 months pregnant with her second child, 2 lives were extinguished in this single act of violence. Perhaps the most disturbing detail was the discovery of her toddler son, still strapped in his car seat, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the tragedy that had unfolded. For hours, this innocent child had been alone in the vehicle, just feet away from his mother's body. The temperature had dropped as night progressed, yet by some mercy, the child remained physically unharmed. First responders described the scene as one of the most heartbreaking they'd encountered. The juxtaposition of violent death alongside a sleeping child created an image that haunted even seasoned officers. The child, now motherless, would wake to a world forever changed by the events of that night. But Alana Sims was so much more than the tragic circumstances of her death. Before she became a headline, before her name was associated with this horrific crime, she was a young woman full of joy and promise. Born on February 13, 2000, Alana, affectionately known as Lana, to those who loved her, was just days away from celebrating her 23rd birthday when her life was cut short. To understand the full weight of this tragedy, we need to step back from that fateful January night and explore who Alana truly was: a daughter, a friend, and most importantly, a devoted mother whose world revolved around her child. Alana Sims radiated joy in a way that friends and family described as infectious. Born and raised in Tampa, Florida, she was known for a bright smile and compassionate nature. Those close to her recall a young woman who loved the color pink, enjoyed music, and had dreams of providing a stable, loving home for her growing family. At just 22, Alana had already shown remarkable resilience and determination. She had aspirations beyond motherhood. Friends mentioned her interest in beauty and fashion, areas where her creativity shined. Though she faced challenges as a young mother, Alana approached life with optimism and grace. She had plans to further her education once her children were older, hoping to build a career that would allow her to support her family comfortably. Her social media posts revealed someone who celebrated small victories and found beauty in everyday moments, a quality that made her loss all the more profound. Motherhood transformed Alana, giving her life new purpose and direction. Her 18-month-old son became the center of her universe, and those who knew her best described the remarkable dedication she showed as a parent. Despite her youth, Alana approached motherhood with maturity and unwavering commitment, often sacrificing her own needs to ensure her child's well-being. Photos shared by family members captured tender moments between mother and son, Alana reading to him, celebrating his first steps, and creating the nurturing environment every child deserves. She meticulously documented his milestones, proudly sharing his growth with loved ones. Even on challenging days, Alana maintained patience and warmth with her toddler. Her phone was filled with pictures of their adventures together, trips to local parks, family gatherings, and quiet moments at home. For Alana, being a mother wasn't just a role, it was her most cherished identity and greatest accomplishment. At 5 months pregnant with her second child, Alana had begun preparing for the new addition to her family. According to those close to her, she was excited about giving her son a sibling and had already started collecting baby essentials. She had recently shared ultrasound images with family members, beaming with the special joy that comes with expecting a child. Though the pregnancy came with its challenges, particularly given the complicated relationship with Billy Adams, Alana remained positive. She had begun thinking of names and envisioning how she would manage life with 2 young children. This pregnancy represented hope and a growing family, dreams that were violently cut short. Alana's connection to her family provided her with essential support and stability. Born to Carlos Pinero and Alana Sims, she maintained close relationships with both parents. Her mother, in particular, was a constant presence in her life, offering guidance and helping with childcare when needed. The bond between them was evident in family gatherings, where Alana's joyful spirit was often attributed to her upbringing. Beyond her immediate family, Alana had cultivated meaningful friendships that formed a network of support. After her death, friends came forward with stories of her generosity and loyalty. They described someone who would check in regularly, offer encouragement during difficult times, and celebrate their successes without jealousy. At her memorial service, attendees wore pink, her favorite color, creating a visual testament to how many lives she had touched. This community of loved ones now advocates for justice, while caring for the son she left behind.
Tonight, First at 10, the family of Alana Sims tells us she's a mother, and she was killed in front of her child in Tampa. Well, tonight, police are looking for the 22-year-old's killer. The whole thing happened last night near the Easton Park neighborhood in New Tampa. Fox 13's Janae Lewis is live in our newsroom tonight. Janae, I know you actually spoke to the victim's mother earlier this evening. The baby boy wasn't hurt, but now he's going to have to grow up without his mom.
Yeah, Allie, and not just that, little boy that's about to turn 2 years old, but her mother told me that her daughter, Elena, was pregnant at the time of her death. They are in absolute disbelief right now, and they're certainly hoping answers come soon.
Very caring, very loving, willing to do anything for others, always up to do any obstacle that was challenging, very outgoing. She's going to be missed dearly.
In her own words, the mother of Alana Sims described her daughter to me. She says the 22-year-old was the woman found lying dead last night in the Easton Park neighborhood with what police described as upper body trauma. They say she was just feet away from her young son, who was sleeping in a car seat.
She loved her son a lot. He was her everything. So the memories I would have is the joyful moments that she had with her son.
Police believe this was a targeted attack.
This is obviously a horrible tragedy for this family. You have a child now who's without a mother because someone took her life while the child was sitting right there in the car behind her as it happened.
They now hope someone comes forward so they can get this family closure.
We're hoping that someone in the community may have some sort of surveillance footage or may have seen a car coming and going that can help us find out who took her life.
Something Elena's family wants to see happen sooner than later, as another young life is tragically cut short in our city.
She was a lovable soul. I mean, she didn't have to die young. She shouldn't have to die young. And everybody should know that, you know, your loved ones, you want to keep them close because you just don't know.
You certainly feel for her. Police have not officially identified Sims as the victim, but tell us an autopsy is now underway. They are, though, asking for anyone with information to please come forward. And again, if you live in the area where this happened, they also want you to check your surveillance cameras for anything suspicious. Any little bit of information can help.
Hopefully the public will come forward and help catch whoever's responsible. Janae, thank you.
Billy Bennett Adams, 3, cultivated a public persona that stood in stark contrast to his private actions. Known in Tampa's music scene as Ace NH, Adams had built a modest following as an aspiring rapper. His social media profiles showcased the trappings of an up-and-coming artist, studio sessions, performances at local venues, and collaborations with other musicians. At 25 years old, he projected confidence and ambition, often speaking about making it big in the competitive hip-hop industry. Behind this carefully constructed image, however, was a man with a troubling history. Those who knew Adams personally described someone with a quick temper and controlling tendencies. His criminal record had begun to accumulate before his relationship with Alana, suggesting a pattern of behavior that would ultimately turn deadly. Despite his artistic aspirations, Adams struggled with maintaining legitimate employment, creating financial pressures that added tension to his personal relationships. This duality, public performer versus private individual, would become central to understanding the tragedy that unfolded. Just 3 days before Alana's murder, Billy Adams walked free from a Tampa courtroom after being acquitted of a double homicide. The case had drawn significant local attention. Adams had been charged with killing 2 men at a recording studio in November 2021. The victims, Trayvon Albury and Daniel Thompson, were shot multiple times in what prosecutors described as a premeditated attack, following a dispute over music and money. Throughout the trial, Adams maintained his innocence, claiming he acted in self-defense after the men threatened him. Despite compelling evidence presented by the prosecution, including Adams' flight from the scene and inconsistent statements to investigators, the jury ultimately found reasonable doubt. On January 27, 2023, after deliberating for less than 6 hours, they delivered a not guilty verdict on all counts. The acquittal was celebrated by Adams and his supporters as vindication. Local news outlets covered his emotional reaction in the courtroom as the verdict was read. In interviews immediately following the trial, his defense attorney praised the justice system, while Adams expressed relief and claimed he was looking forward to moving on with his life. What no one could have predicted was that this freedom would last only 3 days before Adams would commit another violent act, this time against a pregnant woman who believed they were celebrating his legal victory. Alana and Billy's relationship existed in a gray area.
Man accused once again of murder. Just about 3 hours ago, a judge denied bond for Billy Adams. He's accused of killing a pregnant mother just days after a jury found him not guilty of killing 2 people in a separate case. Today would have been Alana Sims' 23rd birthday. Her friends, they were in court today as well. They shared with us the type of person she was.
She was sweet. She had one of the biggest hearts ever. Like, she would do anything for anybody that she loved and she cared about. And she loved her son. Like, she adored him. You didn't see him without her, and you didn't see her without him.
Today, the judge also denied a request to put a gag order on what investigators will be able to release now on this case.
Neither fully committed nor completely casual, they had known each other for approximately 2 years, with their connection intensifying after Alana became pregnant with what would have been their first child together. Friends of Alana described a relationship marked by inconsistency, with Adams appearing attentive and caring at times, while distant and dismissive at others. Text messages recovered during the investigation revealed a troubling dynamic. Adams rarely acknowledged Alana publicly, keeping their relationship largely hidden from his social media followers and even some friends. When Alana announced her pregnancy, witnesses reported that Adams' reaction was lukewarm at best, expressing doubts about paternity and reluctance to take on parental responsibilities. Despite these red flags, Alana maintained hope that Adams would embrace fatherhood as her pregnancy progressed. She defended him to concerned family members, believing his recent legal troubles had contributed to his erratic behavior and that things would improve after his trial concluded. What Alana likely didn't fully comprehend was that Adams was simultaneously involved with another woman, a relationship he prioritized and considered his primary commitment. Police investigation uncovered extensive communication between Adams and this woman, revealing a complex web of deception. As Alana's pregnancy advanced to 5 months, the pressure on Adams intensified, creating a volatile situation. The day before the murder, Adams sent chilling messages to this other woman, who had expressed frustration about Alana's pregnancy. "I want a life with you, and she won't be included," Adams texted, followed by the ominous statement, "Tomorrow this is ***T done." The woman's response, "This ain't the way, baby," suggested she recognized the dangerous implications of his words, but did nothing to alert Alana or authorities. These exchanges, recovered from Adams' phone, would later provide crucial evidence of premeditation. The triangle had created unbearable tension for Adams, who apparently saw murder as a solution rather than accepting responsibility for his actions and choices. I need to pause here and ask, how many warning signs do we miss in our daily lives? If you recognize these patterns in your relationship or a loved one's, please don't ignore them. Comment below with other red flags people should watch for. Your insight could save someone from becoming the next Alana. January 30th, 2023 began as an ordinary Monday for most Tampa residents, but for Alana Sims, it would be her last day alive. That morning, she went about her routine, caring for her toddler and preparing for what she believed would be an evening celebration of Adams' acquittal. Phone records show multiple exchanges between Alana and Adams throughout the day, finalizing details for their meeting later. Around 6:30 p.m., Alana dressed her son and herself, packed the child's necessities, and left her home. She stopped briefly at a convenience store at 6:52 p.m., purchasing snacks and drinks, items consistent with someone heading to a social gathering. Security footage captured her smiling as she returned to her vehicle, her 18-month-old secured in his car seat. By 7:15 p.m., Alana was driving toward the Easton Park neighborhood in New Tampa, an area unfamiliar to her, chosen deliberately by Adams. She followed GPS directions to the location Adams had specified, unaware that no party guests would be arriving. Her final text message, sent at 7:29 p.m., read simply, "Almost there." 7 minutes later, her SUV entered the neighborhood, following the black Chevy Malibu that Adams had borrowed from his father. Within the next hour, Alana Sims would be dead. The celebration party was Adams' calculated deception, a ruse designed to lure Alana to an isolated location. In reality, no invitations had been sent to others, no preparations made for guests, and no venue secured. Adams had fabricated the entire event, telling Alana that friends and family would be gathering to celebrate his recent court victory. Text messages recovered from Alana's phone revealed her excitement about the evening. She had even purchased a small gift, a congratulatory card found later in her purse, and dressed nicely for the occasion. Friends reported that Alana had mentioned the party to them, believing it represented a turning point in her relationship with Adams. She hoped his legal troubles being behind him might mean he would now focus on their future family.
Also developing today, the Tampa rapper accused of killing a pregnant woman and her unborn child just days after a jury found him not guilty in a double murder made his first court appearance. You see that virtually right there. Billy Adams going before the judge. While he did not say much, new court documents show he's using a familiar defense. 10 Tampa Bay's Malik Rankin went through the filing, and Malik, it gives us new details on exactly how police say he is connected to the death of Alana Sims.
Today's hearing only lasted a few minutes, but the details revealed in these documents filed ahead of his next hearing on Monday could change what happens. Right now, Billy Adams will remain in jail without bond. In this motion, the state detailed interviews with witnesses and Adams, and how the more questions they asked, the more his story changed. The motion for pretrial detention states Adams told detectives he was home the entire evening of January 30th. That's the night Alana Sims was killed. She was 5 months pregnant. TPD says her body was found on the road of a New Tampa neighborhood. Her toddler son was asleep in the car next to her when police arrived.
It's awful.
Documents show Adams gave police video showing him with friends at the villas that night. He recanted those statements after police later determined that the video was recorded on February 1st and was altered to indicate the January 30th date and location. Just days before Sims' death, Adams was acquitted in a double homicide case.
In fear of Mr. Beast being shot or myself being shot.
He claimed self-defense. Now he's giving police a similar argument. Documents say initially the defendant stated that the victim pulled a gun on him, and while the defendant wrestled with the victim, he shot her. When the defendant could not demonstrate the events, the defendant changed his statement to the fact that the victim pulled a gun on him and he was able to get the gun away from the victim, then shot her in the head as self-defense. On Monday, the state will argue that Billy Adams poses a threat of harm to the community and should stay in jail without bond throughout his court proceedings. That hearing is scheduled for 2 p.m. on Monday at the Hillsborough County Courthouse. Malik Rankin, 10 Tampa Bay.
And Adams is charged with 2 felony counts, first-degree murder and the killing of an unborn child by injury to the mother.
The cruel irony wasn't lost on investigators. Adams had invited Alana to celebrate his escape from justice for 2 murders, only to commit another. This premeditated deception demonstrated the calculated nature of his plan and his complete disregard for Alana's life. Neighborhood security cameras provided crucial evidence that contradicted Adams' initial claims of innocence. Footage clearly showed his black Chevy Malibu entering Easton Park at 7:22 p.m., followed by Alana's SUV at 7:36 p.m. Both vehicles parked on a quiet street with minimal traffic. Another calculated choice that minimized potential witnesses. For approximately 45 minutes, both cars remained stationary. At 8:21 p.m., surveillance captured only the Malibu leaving the neighborhood. Alana's vehicle remained behind. This timestamp would later help establish the approximate time of murder. Cell tower data placed Adams' phone in the exact location during this window, despite his initial claims of being elsewhere. Additional evidence came from residential doorbell cameras that recorded no sounds of argument or struggle, suggesting Alana was caught completely off guard. One camera briefly captured 2 figures standing near the vehicles before they moved out of frame. The methodical selection of location and timing revealed in this footage underscored the premeditated nature of Adams' actions. The exact details of Alana's final moments can only be pieced together through forensic evidence. What investigators determined was that Adams shot Alana multiple times in the upper body while they stood outside her vehicle. The medical examiner's report indicated she died quickly from catastrophic injuries, with gunshot wounds to vital organs. There were no defensive wounds on her body, suggesting she had no warning of the attack. After murdering Alana, Adams made the unconscionable decision to leave her 18-month-old son strapped in his car seat, alone in the vehicle beside his mother's body. The child, mercifully asleep during the violence, remained there for nearly 2 hours before discovery. Temperatures had dropped into the 60s that evening, cool but not life-threatening for the abandoned toddler. Adams fled the scene in his father's Malibu, making no attempt to ensure the child's safety or report what had happened. This callous abandonment of an innocent child added another layer of horror to an already devastating crime, revealing the true depth of Adams' disregard for human life. Tampa Police Department launched their investigation immediately after Alana's body was discovered. Detective Samantha Richards took lead on the case, bringing extensive experience in homicide investigations. The crime scene was meticulously processed throughout the night, with forensic teams collecting bullet casings, blood evidence, and fingerprints from both vehicles and surrounding areas. Alana's phone became a critical piece of evidence, revealing her communications with Adams in the hours before her death. Detectives quickly identified him as a person of interest, particularly given his recent criminal history. Within 24 hours, investigators had established a timeline of events and secured warrants to search Adams' residence and vehicle. The child was placed in emergency care while authorities located Alana's family. Detective Richards later described the case as particularly disturbing, due to the calculated nature of the crime and the abandonment of the toddler. By the morning of January 31st, less than 12 hours after the discovery of Alana's body, police were closing in on Billy Adams. When first approached by investigators on January 31st, Adams claimed complete ignorance about Alana's death. "I was home all night," he stated confidently during his initial interview. He denied any recent contact with Alana, suggesting they hadn't spoken in weeks. This first version of events quickly unraveled when detectives revealed they had already examined Alana's phone records, showing numerous calls and texts between them on the day of the murder. Confronted with this contradiction, Adams shifted to his second narrative. He acknowledged communicating with Alana, but insisted they had no plans to meet. When presented with surveillance footage clearly showing his vehicle entering the Easton Park neighborhood, Adams changed his story yet again. Now he claimed he had briefly met Alana to discuss the pregnancy, but left her alive and well around 8 p.m. As evidence mounted, Adams' explanations grew increasingly elaborate. In his fourth version of events, he claimed to have been with friends at the time of the murder, even providing a video he insisted was from that evening. Investigators quickly determined the video had been recorded days earlier. Each new story contradicted previous statements and physical evidence, creating a pattern of deception that prosecutors would later highlight as consciousness of guilt. By his fifth interview, Adams had painted himself into a corner with irreconcilable contradictions, revealing a desperate attempt to escape accountability for his actions. The evidence against Adams mounted rapidly as investigators dug deeper. A forensic examination of his phone revealed the damning text messages sent to the other woman the day before the murder, explicitly stating that Alana won't be included in his future and that tomorrow this ***T done. These messages established clear premeditation and motive. A search of the Malibu yielded live ammunition, matching the caliber of bullets used to kill Alana. Gunshot residue was detected on clothing found in Adams' apartment, despite his attempts to clean evidence. Cell tower data placed his phone at the murder scene during the critical time window, contradicting his alibi claims. Perhaps most compelling was the comprehensive surveillance timeline constructed by investigators. Multiple cameras had captured Adams' movements throughout the evening, creating an unbroken chain of evidence from his departure from home to his return after the murder. Financial records showed he had purchased cleaning supplies and new clothes the morning after the killing, further evidence of his attempts to conceal his crime. When confronted with overwhelming evidence, Adams made a final desperate claim, self-defense. He alleged that Alana had pulled a gun on him during an argument about the pregnancy, forcing him to wrestle the weapon away and shoot her. This narrative collapsed under scrutiny for multiple reasons. No weapon belonging to Alana was ever recovered. The gunshot trajectory analysis indicated she had been shot from a distance inconsistent with a struggle. Most damning were Adams' own text messages showing premeditation. Additionally, if truly acting in self-defense, why had he fled the scene, abandoned a child, attempted to establish false alibis, and repeatedly lied to investigators? The self-defense claim represented a final, failed attempt to escape justice for a cold-blooded murder. On February 8, 2023, just 9 days after Alana's murder, police arrested Billy Bennett Adams, 3 at his apartment. He was taken into custody without incident, appearing resigned as officers read him his rights. The Hillsborough County State Attorney's Office filed formal charges the following day: first-degree premeditated murder, first-degree murder of an unborn child, and child neglect. The severity of the charges reflected the calculated nature of the crime and the particular vulnerability of the victims. Prosecutor Maria Rodriguez emphasized the cold, calculated, and premeditated aspects of the case during the initial press conference. This wasn't a crime of passion or a momentary lapse in judgment, she stated. Evidence shows Mr. Adams planned this murder, executed it methodically, and abandoned a toddler with his mother's body. Adams was held without bail, deemed both a flight risk and a danger to the community, particularly given his recent acquittal in another homicide case and the weight of evidence in this new case. At Adams' first court appearance on February 10th, Judge Margaret Taylor immediately denied defense attorney Jamie Kane's request for bail. The prosecution announced their intention to seek the death penalty, citing multiple aggravating factors: the premeditated nature of the crime, the murder of a pregnant woman, and the particular cruelty of abandoning a child with his deceased mother. The case proceeded through the legal system with preliminary hearings throughout spring 2023. Each appearance drew media attention, with Adams appearing in court in standard-issue orange jumpsuit and restraints, a stark contrast to the confident demeanor he had displayed after his previous acquittal just weeks earlier. The prosecution methodically built their case, presenting grand jury testimony from witnesses, forensic experts, and investigators. By summer, they had amassed over 2,000 pages of evidence and identified 47 potential witnesses. Defense attempts to suppress key evidence, including the incriminating text messages, were denied by the court, strengthening the prosecution's position as they moved toward trial. The case attracted intense media scrutiny, particularly given Adams' recent acquittal in another murder case. Defense attorney Kane filed a motion for a gag order in February, arguing that press coverage could prejudice potential jurors. He specifically cited a local news article that included highly speculative information about the case. Judge Taylor denied the request, ruling that it would violate Florida Statute 119 regarding freedom of the press and Massey's Law, which guarantees victims' families access to case information. The ruling ensured that details of the investigation remain public, allowing Alana's story to be told while maintaining transparency in the judicial process. National media outlets soon picked up the case, bringing wider attention to the tragedy. On what would have been Alana's 23rd birthday, February 13, 2023, her family held a memorial service where attendees wore pink, her favorite color. Her mother, Alana Sims, established a foundation in Alana's name to support children who have lost parents to violence. The Tampa community rallied around Alana's family, raising funds for her son's future care and education. Local domestic violence organizations used the case to highlight warning signs of potentially dangerous relationships. At a candlelight vigil attended by hundreds, Alana's father, Carlos Pinero, spoke of turning grief into action. "We couldn't save our daughter, but through her story, we might save someone else's." That's what Alana would have wanted. Alana's tragic story highlights several warning signs that often precede intimate partner violence. Controlling behavior, like Adams' insistence on keeping their relationship private, serves to isolate victims from support networks. Sudden changes in communication patterns or meeting in unfamiliar locations should raise immediate concerns. Perhaps most telling in this case were the explicit threats, even when made to a third party, about eliminating someone from one's life. Other red flags include jealousy disguised as protection, monitoring movements or communications, and rapid relationship progression, followed by pressure to make significant commitments. Financial control, emotional manipulation, and a partner with a history of violence toward others are critical indicators of potential danger. The presence of weapons, combined with any of these behaviors, significantly increases risk. Most importantly, trust your instincts. That feeling of unease is your subconscious recognizing danger before your conscious mind can process it. When multiple warning signs appear together, the risk escalates dramatically, and immediate action becomes necessary. If you recognize these warning signs in your relationship or someone else's, resources are available 24 hours a day. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233, provides confidential support, safety planning, and local referrals. Many communities offer emergency shelter, legal advocacy, and counseling services specifically for domestic violence survivors. When leaving a dangerous relationship, professional guidance is crucial, as separation often triggers escalation. Local police departments can provide protection orders and safety checks. Organizations like the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence offer online resources for creating safety plans. Remember, domestic violence thrives in silence. Reaching out is the first step towards safety and healing. If this video helped you understand the warning signs of domestic violence, please like and subscribe to our channel. More importantly, share these resources with someone who might need them. Comment below with other red flags you've recognized or resources in your community. Together, we can prevent more tragedies like Alana's. Alana Sims should be celebrating her son's milestones, preparing for the birth of her second child, and building the future she dreamed of. Instead, her story serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly domestic violence can turn deadly. Her legacy now lives on through her son, through the foundation established in her name, and through every person who recognizes a warning sign and takes action before it's too late. As we conclude Alana's story, remember her not as a victim, but as a loving mother whose life mattered. The best tribute we can offer is ensuring her tragedy helps others find safety before violence claims more lives.